At 2:17 a.m., Dayton police responded to a call on Riverside Drive. A 28-year-old woman was found dead in her bedroom. There were no signs of forced entry, no weapon, no immediate cause of death. What investigators didn't know yet was that the murder had already happened hours earlier, quietly and by design. It was a routine night shift for the Dayton Police Department. Dispatcher Lisa Hernandez sat before her computer screen watching the usual stream of notifications, noise complaints, parking violations, and the occasional drunk driving alert. But at exactly 2:17 a.m., a sudden beep from the system changed the entire mood of the shift. A red alert popped up on the screen. Unresponsive female, possible medical emergency. Caller, Emily Parker. Lisa picked up the call immediately. 911, what's your emergency? On the other end was Emily Parker. Her voice was slightly shaky, but it lacked the sheer panic one would expect in such a situation. My friend, she's not waking up. I think she's dead. Lisa followed the standard protocol, asking assessment questions, but Emily paused before every answer as if she were carefully measuring her words. Police response. 2:21 a.m. The system immediately dispatched the nearest units. Unit D 314 Officer Thomas Avery, Unit D 227 Officer Mia Collins. Both officers headed toward 3402 Riverside Drive. The weather was a crisp 52 degrees Fahrenheit, the air was still, and visibility was perfectly clear. At 2:29 a.m., the police units arrived. Officer Avery noted that the front porch light was on, but the door was unlocked. There were no signs of forced entry, a detail that was immediately noted in the official report. The bedroom was located on the first floor to the right. Officer Mia Collins described the scene in her later incident report. The victim was identified as 28-year-old Sarah Mitchell. She was found lying in a supine position on the bed. There was no visible trauma and the linens were completely undisturbed. The scene was unusually calm. Sarah's hands were positioned naturally by her side. There were no signs of a struggle. While the room temperature was normal, Sarah's body was ice cold to the touch. 2:33 a.m. Officers confirmed there was no pulse and no breathing. 2:35 a.m. Lividity was confirmed, meaning death had occurred several hours prior. Emily Parker stood in the hallway. Her arms were folded, her face blank. She wasn't crying, nor did she seem distressed. The police note stated, "The witness remained unusually calm given the circumstances." Emily provided her statement. "We had dinner together, drank some herbal tea. I left the house after 8:30 p.m." This was the moment that raised the first red flag for Detective Cooper. The following morning, the preliminary autopsy report arrived. Estimated time of death, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. This meant Sarah died during the hours she was supposedly alone. However, the most critical piece of evidence came from the neighborhood CCTV cameras between 9:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. Not a single unknown person was recorded entering or leaving the property. No break-in, no forced entry, no disturbance. If this was a murder, the killer was either someone Sarah trusted implicitly or someone who had a key to the house. On the kitchen counter sat a single ceramic mug containing dried tea residue. Police bagged it as evidence number RM-14-TEA1. It was at this point that the case shifted from a medical emergency to a full-blown homicide investigation. At 9:40 a.m., Sarah Mitchell's body arrived at the Montgomery County Coroner's Office. By this time, the Dayton Police Department had officially declared the case a suspicious death. The investigation was handed over to lead detective Ryan Cooper. A veteran with 19 years of experience in homicide and narcotics, Cooper was known for his calm, methodical, and relentless approach to crime scenes. Medical examiner Dr. Alan Brooks conducted the autopsy. The initial observations were baffling. No external injuries, no defensive wounds, no signs of strangulation or struggle. Heart, lungs, and brain all appeared normal. However, the contents of the stomach immediately raised a red flag. The preliminary toxicology report shattered any theory of a natural death. It was neither food poisoning nor an accidental overdose. Trace amounts of a plant-based toxin were found in Sarah's blood and liver samples. This specific toxin was tasteless, odorless, delayed in reaction. Dr. Brooks noted in his report, ingestion likely occurred 2 to 4 hours before the onset of fatal symptoms. This meant if death occurred around 10:30 p.m., the poison must have been consumed between 6:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Detective Cooper focused entirely on the timeline. Who was with Sarah between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m.? Only one name kept surfacing, Emily Parker. In her initial statement, Emily claimed she left the house at 8:30 p.m. after having tea. But when Cooper pulled her phone records, a discrepancy emerged. 7:42 p.m. Emily sent a text to her sister, leaving Sarah's place now. The tea was likely consumed just before 7:30 p.m. This window matched the toxicology estimate perfectly. The kitchen evidence, RM-14-TEA1, became the centerpiece of the investigation. A tea sachet found in the trash was no common brand. It was labeled Organic Herbal Blend, Imported. This product wasn't available at regular grocery stores. It was sold only at 2 specialty health stores in the city and 1 online retailer. Detective Cooper ordered an immediate trace of the local purchase history. One name popped up, Green Root Wellness Store, Oakwood, Ohio. The store manager confirmed they kept a very limited stock of this specific blend. Cooper quickly reviewed the surveillance footage from October 11th, 3 days before the incident. The footage showed a female customer approximately 5 feet 6 inches wearing a brown jacket with her hair tied back. She purchased the exact herbal tea found at the crime scene. The payment method sealed the connection, credit card name, Emily Parker. At this point, the police officially updated Emily Parker's status from witness to person of interest. Despite the mounting evidence, Detective Cooper remained cautious. Emily was emotionally controlled, cooperative, and never showed signs of nerves, traits that could either indicate shock or a very well-executed plan. Cooper knew he needed more than just a purchase receipt. He needed a case that was airtight. For Detective Ryan Cooper, this case was no longer just about forensics. His experience told him that in every homicide, the motive is often hidden within relationships long before it appears in the evidence. The focus now shifted entirely to the victim's personal life. Sarah Mitchell was a 28-year-old software analyst for a mid-size IT firm. Record, perfectly clean. No criminal history or substance abuse. Personality, friends described her as organized, routine-oriented, and emotionally stable. Suicide or reckless behavior simply did not fit this profile. Everything pointed toward a premeditated act. Interviews with co-workers and family revealed that Emily Parker wasn't just a friend, the two were inseparable. Emily knew every detail of Sarah's life. She had a spare key and full access to Sarah's house. She knew Sarah's schedule better than anyone. This finally explained the no forced entry mystery. The killer didn't have to break in, they walked in through the front door. Sarah's iPhone and MacBook were processed at the Montgomery County Digital Evidence Lab. While the surface data seemed normal, the forensics unit hit pay dirt in the deleted messages folder. The sender was Emily Parker. The tone of these messages was far from friendly. The tension was palpable. You think you can control everything. If you tell him everything is over, you are ruining my life, Sarah. These messages were sent just 10 days before the murder. For the first time, the police had a clear signal of a motive. Detective Cooper dug deeper into Emily's own records and found a recurring unknown number. It was traced to a woman in Cincinnati named Laura Kay. The investigation revealed that Emily was leading a secret life. She was in a romantic relationship with Laura, who knew absolutely nothing about Sarah's existence. Sarah had discovered this double life and had given Emily an ultimatum. If you don't tell her yourself, I will. This is wrong. This was the spark. Emily was desperate to protect her secret, and Sarah was the only person standing in her way. To ensure the case was airtight, Cooper interviewed Sarah's ex-boyfriend, Jason Reed. Alibi: Jason was in Columbus, Ohio at the time of the death. Proof: hotel CCTV and credit card receipts confirmed his location. The romantic revenge angle was officially eliminated. All roads led back to Emily. Detective Cooper noted in his internal report, victim had clear intent to expose the suspect's secret relationship, motive established, fear of exposure. However, one major hurdle remained. They had the motive, the timeline, and the tea purchase, but they still lacked direct physical proof that Emily was the one who intentionally spiked that specific mug. Without it, the case could still fall apart in court. Interview Room 2 was a cramped, stark space. The walls were drab gray, and the metal table in the center held only a single object, an audio recorder. In the corner, a silent CCTV camera blinked, capturing every movement. Emily Parker sat upright in the chair. Her hands rested in her lap, her expression perfectly neutral. No lawyer. She had waived her right to an attorney. Voluntary. She agreed to talk, confident she could outsmart the police. Detective Ryan Cooper pressed the record button. The red light flickered on. Emily, we just want to clear up a few facts. Emily nodded slightly. Sure. Her voice carried an unsettling level of confidence. Detective Cooper's strategy was simple. Do not accuse. He wanted Emily to feel safe, to keep her guard down. He asked, "Did you visit the Green Root Wellness Store on October 13th? Emily paused for a second, feigning a moment of recall. Yes, I buy tea from there sometimes. Cooper didn't react. He simply said, okay, no follow-up, no pressure. The silence in the room began to grow heavy. Cooper asked Emily to describe the evening minute by minute. Emily recited her rehearsed timeline. Dinner at 6:45 p.m. Tea around 7:15 p.m. I left the house by 8:30 p.m. Cooper twirled his pen idly, then asked calmly, "What kind of tea did you drink?" Emily answered immediately, "Chamomile." This was the moment Detective Cooper stopped moving his pen. The tea found at the crime scene was not chamomile. The lab report had confirmed it was a custom herbal blend containing foxglove extract. Foxglove, the source of digitalis, a potent heart medication that acts as a poison in high doses. Police had never released this detail to the public. Emily shouldn't have known about any blend. Cooper didn't correct her lie. He just sat there, silent. 10 seconds, not 20 seconds. The silence became unbearable for Emily. She began to fill the void herself. I think it was chamomile. Sarah liked experimenting with new teas. Unnecessary explanation, a classic defensive reaction. Cooper slowly placed a folder on the table and slid it open. Inside were 3 items. 1, the store receipt. 2, the CCTV still image. 3, the toxicology summary. Cooper looked directly into Emily's eyes. You bought this tea, and this is the tea that delivered the poison. For the first time, Emily's mask cracked. Her jaw tightened and her blink rate accelerated. Cooper lowered his voice, making it almost intimate. Emily, this looks planned. This wasn't a random accident. Emily snapped back instantly. I didn't plan anything. The denial came too fast without him even asking a question. Cooper played his final card. The poison has a delayed effect. That's why the victim doesn't feel symptoms immediately. Emily, in a moment of impulse, blurted out, "That's why I chose tea. I didn't choose anything." The room went dead silent. The recorder had captured everything. What Emily had just said was something only the killer could know. That's why I chose tea. The connection between the tea and the delayed toxin had not been shared with anyone. This was guilty knowledge. Detective Cooper stood up from his chair. Emily, this interview is over. The door opened and 2 uniformed officers stepped in. Emily was handcuffed. The charge was read, first-degree murder official record. The police report concluded, The suspect voluntarily disclosed knowledge of the poison delivery method, a detail not released to the public. This statement directly contradicted her claims of innocence. That single sentence was enough to seal Emily Parker's fate. Courtroom number 3 was packed to capacity. The front rows were occupied by media reporters and law students, while the back benches held Sarah Mitchell's parents who had traveled from Michigan. Their faces bore the heavy marks of exhaustion and grief. Emily Parker sat at the defense table in an orange jail uniform. Today was the day of the verdict. Lead prosecutor Karen Holt presented the case to the jury with clinical precision. This was not a crime of passion or a sudden outburst. This was a cold, calculated execution. The prosecution summarized the evidence into 3 undeniable pillars. The use of a foxglove-based toxin. It was tasteless, odorless, and featured a delayed reaction. The medical examiner's testimony was clear. Accidental ingestion was scientifically impossible. The specific herbal blend was only available at Green Root Wellness Store. The purchase was linked to Emily's credit card, and CCTV footage placed her at the scene. The weapon was purchased legally, but the intent was purely criminal. The deleted messages were read aloud to the jury. Sarah's ultimatum, "If you don't tell her yourself, I will," was the smoking gun. Prosecutor Holt concluded, this murder wasn't fueled by jealousy. It was fueled by the desperate fear of exposure. The defense attorney made a final attempt to paint Emily as emotionally unstable and claimed the confession was a misunderstanding. However, the damage was done. The judge reminded the jury to consider the guilty knowledge, facts about the poison that only the perpetrator could have known at the time of the interview. The jury room door was locked. 3:05 p.m. A verdict was reached in just 1 hour and 45 minutes. There was no longer any doubt in their minds. The courtroom fell into a deafening silence as the clerk read the decision. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. Sarah's mother closed her eyes in a moment of silent relief. Emily simply bowed her head. No tears, no visible reaction. Judge Michael Reynolds addressed the court before delivering the final blow. This was a calculated act, not a momentary lapse in judgment. The sentence, life imprisonment. Without the possibility of parole, Emily Parker was transferred to the Ohio Reformatory for Women. The Green Root Wellness Store permanently discontinued the sale of specific toxic herb blends. The Dayton Police Department eventually included this investigation in their training modules under the category Delayed Toxins and Insider Access. This case highlighted a chilling reality. Most murders are not random. They are committed by those who understand the victim's routine, trust, and habits in intimate detail.